A very good evening, good morning, and good afternoon from wherever our guests have joined today. Thank you so much for joining for this special session of Science, Technology, Innovation Policy 2020. This is a special day, not just because of this event, and also today is the birth anniversary of Professor C.V. Raman, a pioneer of Indian science who has put Indian science in the global map much earlier than our times today. With his remembrance, we'll start this event, and I'll be your moderator to this moderator of this event, along with my colleague Radhika. She will be joining during this session. Let me quickly give you a run through of the event flow. And today's event is one of the series of consultations that we are doing for the upcoming Science, Technology, Innovation Policy, what we call STIP 2020. And we are live streaming this event in YouTube and also in all other channels in social medias. And we are using a hashtag called hashtag chat with Dr. Harshvardhan. I repeat, hashtag chat with Dr. Harshvardhan to collect all the audience questions and comments and suggestions through this event. In addition to that, we also have a lot of participants in our YouTube channel today, and they will be also having a parallel conversation there along with our conversation that is happening online here. And let me quickly go through our panelists. And today's panel will be chaired by our Honorable Minister, Dr. Harshvardhan, Union Minister for Science, Technology, Earth Sciences, Health and Family Welfare. Along with, we have Professor K. Vijay Raghavan, Principal Scientific Advisor to Government of India, Professor Ashutosh Sharma, Secretary of Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, Dr. Vijay Chautawale, the healthcare biotech consultant and leading expert in this field, and also someone who has a strong connect with the Indian diaspora communities around the world in various initiatives, and also Ambassador Renu Paul, who heads the new Emerging and Strategic Technologies Division, a newly formed technology division in the Ministry of External Affairs in the Government of India. And with that, we also have all our science counselors in Indian missions around the world, joining from Washington, D.C., Moscow, Berlin, and Tokyo. And we have our esteemed guest, diaspora representatives from various parts of the world joining today to this conversation in this panel. And then in attendee list, as part of this call, we have also the STIP 2020, entire team of STIP 2020, and our colleagues from DST, Office of PSA, and other ministries and agencies. I'll welcome you all for this interactive consultation session. And as a quick logistic note, we'll keep all our microphones muted. However, we would request all of you to keep your videos on. And if there are any technical issues, Ashwini Gopal is there with us in this call, and her number is shared already. Please feel free to reach out to her. And with that, without further ado, let me quickly call Dr. Akhilesh Gupta, the head of STIP 2020 Secretariat, to give a brief about the STIP policy and the initiative, and then we'll move on to the main session. Over to you, Dr. Gupta.
Thank you, Shagun. Very good evening, good afternoon, and good morning to all the distinguished guests here and outside India. Honorable Minister for Science and Technology and Health and Family Affairs, Dr. Harshvardhan, all other distinguished guests on call, large number of distinguished guests, and our participant from the Indian Diaspora from a dozen countries across the world. Also the thousands of Indian Diaspora members joining from different parts of the world. I'm going to give a very brief glimpses of science and technology innovation policy that we are formulating. As you all know, there are 4 policies on science and technology that came up after the independence, which include Science Policy Resolution of 1958, Technology Policy Statement of 1983, Science and Technology Policy of 2003, and Science and Technology Innovation Policy of 2013. All these policies came at different times where depending on the national circumstances and the priorities, these policies were formulated. The policy that we are formulating now, in fact, is somewhat unique in the sense that it is completely bottom-up, decentralized, expert-driven, evidence-supported, and inclusive. In fact, in the last 6 months, they have had 300 rounds of discussions and deliberation and consultation taking place. Nearly 30,000 stakeholders have been consulted as part of these consultation, and in this we have ensured that the entire process is both thought driven and bottom up in terms of involvement of various stakeholders. The entire process has been divided into 4 tracks of actions. The track 1 is the extended public and expert consultation, which has 6 different activities that include even the surveys, the consultation like online consultation with experts, and also public debates, discussions, and across the table discussion with leading scientists and thought leaders in the country. As a part of track 2, the 21 thematic groups were formed in different areas where we had 150 different experts participated, and this actually helped creating a kind of skeleton of policy document, for getting ready. Track 3, as a part of track 3, we had consulted ministries, including the line ministries, and most importantly, we had consulted all the state. In the last week, only on 22nd October, we had, in fact, a state consultation led by Honorable Minister, where all the 28 states participated. 16 ministers participated, S&T minister participated on the state, and 4 union territories participated. This is the first of its kind, I would say, unique consultation. This is the first time that a policy is involving the state government directly into the policy formulation process. In addition, this is the diaspora consultation that we are in fact holding now. In fact, this is again first of its kind in the history, where in the past never any policy where diaspora has been consulted in this way in a direct involvement. Track 4 is a multi-stakeholder consultation at the apex level. This also we are in fact track 1 to track 3 processes are completed now. In fact, we are going to now begin the track 4 process shortly. So this way, the track 1 to track 4 complete the entire consultation process and the formulation process of science and technology. The Indian diaspora can participate in different ways. For example, they can give suggestion to us on this 2020, what kind of things can be included. Also, they can give us ideas how Indian diaspora can contribute to India for becoming an Atmanirbhar Bharat. What kind of opportunities can be created to attract the talent back to India? This is the idea we would like to get from you. And also, what kind of facilitating channels can be put in position for diaspora to contribute to the national development while being at the respective location. With that, I would once again welcome everybody to this very important consultation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gupta. Now we'll move on to a panel and panelist chat by Honorable Minister. Now I request Honorable Minister Dr. Harshvardhan to share his vision and thought for the upcoming Science Technology Innovation Policy 2020. Over to you, sir.
Good evening, good morning, and good afternoon, friends from all over the world. We have with us in India, in this function, Professor K. Vijay Raghavan, Principal Scientific Advisor to the Government of India, Professor Ashutosh Sharma, Secretary, Department of Science and Technology, Dr. Vijay Chothaiwala, Consultant, Healthcare Biotech, Ambassador Ms. Renu Paul, Additional Secretary, Ministry of External Affairs, Dr. Akhilesh Gupta, Head, STIP 2020 Secretariat, Department of Science and Technology, distinguished members of the Indian Diaspora joining us on call for the interactive session, a large number of members of the Indian Diaspora and other participants who are watching this program live from across the country and the world, our dear science counselors from all across the world. I have the physical presence of Ms. Nanu Basin, ADG, PIB, with me, along with a few media personnel here and all the other media personnel who have joined the program virtually. Moderators of the session, Dr. Chagun Pasha and Dr. Radhika Trikha, team of STIP 2020 Secretariat, ladies and gentlemen, my greetings to all of you. First of all, let me extend my apologies to all of you because I know unfortunately this program had to be postponed a couple of times, and every time we had fixed up a time, we had informed all of you all across the world, but then at the last moment there were extremely unavoidable reasons for which the program had to be postponed. But thank God, today we are doing this program, which for me is one of the most important activity, which is going to contribute very, very significantly to the formulation of the STIP 2020 policy, which is going to lead us to a new India in 2022, and of course an India in 2030 where science in India shall be amongst the topmost in the whole world, as per the dream of our Prime Minister. Today, it is fortunately for us a very, very pious day, and I think a great day for seeking inspiration from the life of the great Bharat Ratna, our only Nobel laureate in science, Dr. C.V. Raman. I start by paying my heartfelt tributes to his memory on behalf of all of you, all the scientific community and others in India and all across the world. Friends, India is a diverse country with unique strengths, challenges and opportunities for growth. Science, technology and innovation can act as the unifying force that aids in overcoming these challenges and concerns. The current pandemic stands witness to the immediate need for indigenous science, technology and innovation development and growth, which is pertinent to address the Prime Minister's clarion call for an Atmanirbhar Bharat. India prides itself on having a diaspora empire on which the sun never sets. The Indian diaspora has been a source of remittances, technology and intellectual power. Ever since the Indian economy was liberalized and began to grow at a rapid pace, the massive number of diaspora became a strong pillar of the Indian economy. The significant contributions of the large and highly skilled Indian diaspora communities in forging the development of Indian IT and biotech industry is well recognized by now. We acknowledge the huge untapped potential of the diaspora and aim at connecting with them back to Indian scientific and economic ecosystem. Reinforcing this engagement will enable India to leverage its science and technology expertise across the globe for robust growth in all areas of science, technology and innovation. Indian scientific diaspora is considered one of the most vibrant diaspora communities around the world. People of Indian origin holding leadership roles in academia, industry, and also the government, even in some of the technologically most advanced countries, are revealing evidence of that. There is a huge potential in connecting and engaging with the Indian scientific diaspora, not only for the benefit of our national development, but also for global development. Indian diaspora is a major stakeholder in the science, technology, innovation policy process, and today's consultation aims at generating and streamlining key areas in the making of STIP 2020. It is important to build policy level mechanisms to create suitable opportunities for attracting best talents back home, and also to create facilitating channels for the diaspora to contribute in national development from their respective locations. The upcoming policy aims to address both first and second generation diaspora by facilitating institutional mechanisms for engagement with Indian ecosystem. After independence, science and technology became a major focus area for the national building process. Four national policies: Science Policy Resolution of 1958, Technology Policy Statement of 1983, Science and Technology Policy of 2003, and Science, Technology and Innovation Policy of STIP 2013 in the area of science and technology are the milestones in the evolution of India's STI ecosystem. The past few years have witnessed accelerated national growth, placing India as a global science, technology, innovation leader. There has been a significant rise in the country's performance in terms of publications, patents, and quality of research publications. Per capita R&D expenditure has also increased with greater participation from the private sector. Participation of women in extramural R&D projects has almost doubled. India is also actively engaged in emerging technologies such as nanotechnology. Our capacity in inclusive and frugal innovation has been recognized globally. As India and the world reorient in the present context of the COVID-19 crisis, a landmark policy initiative, Science, Technology and Innovation Policy 2020, has been initiated. The core vision of STIP 2020 is the decentralization of policy designing by making it a bottom-up and inclusive process. It aims to realign priorities, sectoral focus, and methods of research and technology development with the goals of larger socio-economic progress. The proposed Science, Technology, Innovation Policy is expected to leverage the astounding progress that the STI system has witnessed in recent years and build a long-term pathway which must be able to fulfill the dreams and aspirations of millions of young Indian scientists and students. This can be done only when we make policy formulation totally inclusive and participatory. The Vaibhav Summit and the recently launched dedicated one-stop platform for science and technology diaspora engagement, Prabhas, are some of the proactive steps in this direction. This shows the Government of India's active pursuit in this engagement. Scientific diaspora contributes a lot in both internationalization of science and technology development and boosting the country's technology intensity. With the right kind of policy instruments in place, engagement with the diaspora can help us attract global best talents to contribute to our national science, technology, innovation ecosystem and enable creating a critical mass of skilled human resources for a knowledge-based economy. There is a need to establish and strengthen formal institutional mechanisms for engaging Indian diaspora. These mechanisms will facilitate the integration of the diaspora community with the Indian ecosystem by creating suitable opportunities for the returning diaspora as well as facilitating channels for non-returning diaspora to contribute back to the country. I look forward to having an interesting session with the diaspora community wherein we will welcome your suggestions and discuss a host of issues. We have a distinguished panel of eminent scientists and diplomats like Professor K. Vijay Raghavan, Professor Ashutosh Sharma, Dr. Vijay Chothaiwala and Ambassador Renu Paul to respond to some of the queries and comments that you may have on STI related issues and the STI policy. I would encourage all of you to come forward and post your suggestions live. Our STIP 2020 Secretariat will collect them and consider including them in the draft STI policy. I once again welcome all the dignitaries, representatives of the Indian diaspora and other senior officials for joining today's meeting. I look forward to a fruitful deliberation and sincerely hope there would be some tangible outcome from the discussion. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, sir. Now we will quickly go into the main session where we will have our panelists, as you introduced, Professor Vijay Raghavan, Professor Ashutosh Sharma, Ambassador Renu Paul, and Dr. Vijay is there. And just quickly, I'll give a pattern in which we will conduct this segment. We will quickly have a round of introductory remarks from our panelists, and then we will go through our diaspora representatives' comments and suggestions in a bunch. And in between, we will again go through our panelists for their remarks. So we will call names and we will follow that in that sequence. Now, let me request Professor Vijay Raghavan, Principal Scientific Advisor to Government of India, to share his vision and thoughts as his initial remarks for this panel. Over to you, Professor.
Thank you. Honorable Minister for Science and Technology and Earth Sciences, Health and Family Welfare, Dr. Harshvardhan ji, my fellow panelists, Dr. Ashutosh Sharma, Dr. Vijay Chothaiwala, Ms. Renu Paul. It's a great pleasure and honor to be here amongst our scientists, friends and colleagues from the diaspora. The Science, Technology and Innovation Policy 2020, which you've heard about comprehensively from Dr. Akhilesh Gupta and detailed out the high principles from Dr. Harshvardhan, is going to be very important and transformative. Least of all, it is not the least, it has been part of an extraordinary consultative process. With the Indian diaspora now, this is the final stage of the consultation process, and your inputs will be very important. The diaspora has been critically important in India's growth and development for a long, long time. One of the most famous members of the Indian diaspora who came back and transformed India is Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi also had a deep interest in science, and he pointed out that science has got an aspect related to curiosity and adventure and discovery, but it must also have a deep connection with our society. This combination is very important, was always very important, but in today's world, with the pandemic, it has become extremely evident what the value of this connection is. Our scientists all over the world, whether they are basic scientists, mathematicians, geometers, astronomers, they have come together with biologists, clinicians, researchers, engineers to solve problems of an immediate kind in the way which has never happened before. India has done that in an exemplary manner, whether it is vaccines, personal protective equipment, diagnostics, or any other aspect related to the pandemic. But there's a lesson here, which is that in our institutions, nationally and internationally, wherever you are, we have great strengths, but we sometimes coast along in a manner which is not sufficiently connected with our society and our people. Pandemic has shown that it is possible to have this connection. Now, our challenge as we embark on this policy is continue to have this connection in a structured manner, and while investing substantially in basic research and ensuring that the fundamentals are very strong, we should also ensure that cooperation is very strong so that both in normal times and in emergency, the service of our society, our economy, and our people also happens with great speed. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Professor. Now let me call upon Professor Ashutosh Sharma, Secretary DST, to share his thoughts.
Indeed. So Minister Dr. Harshvardhan and Dr. Vijay Raghavan set up the platform, emphasizing the broad aspects of policy as well as the connect that we need from this policy. So I'm really delighted and very thankful for so many deep and committed minds who have joined us today. Very thankful indeed. And this would be a very valuable part of making the policy. Now, there are 4 or 5 different things, major things that we need to see in the policy. The first one is to bring in greater quality, profoundness, direction, and relevance in our S&T, R&D, and innovation. So this is related to what Dr. Vijay Raghavan pointed out as the connect during the time of COVID-19. And the second aspect, which is related to it, is to create a seamless science, technology, and innovation ecosystem, which involves from knowledge creation to knowledge consumption, which means that we have R&D, labs, academia, government, startups, industry, NGOs, all of them working together for some common purpose so that one can take the fruits of science and technology all the way to innovation and to the market. Connect with the states has been very important, and that is indeed, as was pointed out by the minister, an essential aspect of this policy. The third aspect is now the future comes at us faster and faster. There are lots of disruptive technologies on the horizon. So we need to factor them in our policy. Just to give some examples, these are quantum technologies, communication to computing to algorithms to everything else, and cyber physical systems, artificial intelligence, and so on. So then we have to be totally future ready and together with the connects which are needed in order to address these problems at a scale and with the speed. The next aspect is to be totally aware about diversity, inclusion, and equity. Now, this diversity, India is a very diverse country. So not only in terms of gender, of course, is a great, the big aspect of it, in terms of gender, in terms of age, to bring in younger people and provide platforms for their leadership, to cultivate leadership at an early age. Of course, also related to people participating from different socioeconomic strata and from the geographic locations and different languages indeed. The last point is about international connect. So while it is the last, this is not the least, and this is why we are here. To have very strong international connects, in particular with the help of committed diaspora that would want to participate in so many different processes and structures of Indian science, technology, and innovation. And all of this, all of these aspects in the policy, it must have elements which are actionable, which are realistic, and so that this policy would not simply be a list of wishes or a wish list, but something which is accompanied by a map for actions. So thank you very much again for being with all of us. I'll stop there.
Thank you so much, Professor Sharma. Now let me call upon Dr. Vijay Chautaiwala to share his thoughts. Over to you, sir.
Honorable Minister, Dr. Harshvardhan ji, Principal Scientific Advisor, Dr. Vijay Raghavan, Professor Ashutosh Sharma ji, Science and Technology Innovation Policies in charge, Dr. Gupta, his team, and all other distinguished members of Indian Diaspora. It is indeed a great privilege for me to connect on this platform. First of all, I would like to congratulate Dr. Harshvardhan and his team under Dr. Gupta for taking such a unique initiative of bringing the members of diaspora in such a important policy discussion. As you all know, that Prime Minister Modi ji has always thought that Indian diaspora is an extension of India all over the world, and he would like to put them as an unofficial ambassadors of India. And there cannot be a better example than the science and technology, or as what we have in the various fields of in practically every field in almost all the major countries in India. And that is a real strength which we would like to leverage for this policy formulation. Prime Minister Modi ji has interacted several innovators, several entrepreneurs, several startup companies, and also investors at various platforms in India, as well as whenever he travels abroad. Now, with this discussion, actually, we are entering a new phase, a paradigm shift, I would say, where we are inviting the science and technology experts from our diaspora to actually get into the formulation of policy which will guide Indian science, technology, and innovation for at least a decade or so. And several fields have been already defined by esteemed speakers before me. So I will not repeat them, but what I am appealing you to that we want your expertise wholeheartedly. There are several programs that have been already launched where the members of scientific community from various countries can actually participate and collaborate formally under various schemes with Indian counterparts. I would appeal all of them to wholeheartedly participate in those schemes, and at the same time guide all of us in this new era of science-driven development, technology-driven development, and innovation-driven development of the country. So I again welcome all of you to this very important discussion, and this will be a continuation of several future interactions, formally and informally. And I appeal all of you to give your valuable inputs for the formulation of this new policy. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Vijay. Thank you for highlighting the importance and continuity of this engagement also. Let me call upon now our Ambassador Renu Paul, who is heading the INES division in MEA. Ambassador Paul, over to you.
Thank you, Shagun. Honorable Minister, my very distinguished panelists, representatives of the diaspora and the STIP2020 team. Let me begin by saying that I'm in the process of setting up the new Emerging and Strategic Technologies Division in the Ministry of External Affairs. This was set up in January 2020, and we are this month going to be taking on domain experts, which is a first for the Ministry of External Affairs. And we hope that we will be then better equipped to handle the mandate of our division. We, of course, will be looking at assessing foreign policy implications of new and emerging technologies. We will function as the nodal point to coordinate Indian positions on governance rules, standards, norms, which are going to come up for such technologies. And most importantly, we will be the synapses in facilitating the discourse on emerging technologies between India and our partner countries, in bringing together teams to facilitate emerging technology-related interfaces between Indian institutions, ministries, state governments, and interlocutors abroad, strengthening in particular the role of Indian missions in this process. The first of our NEST initiatives was actually launched on 31st August this year in partnership with the Office of the Principal Scientific Advisor to the Government of India and the Science Policy Forum. It was a unique crowdsourcing exercise to get expressions of intent or EOIs on emerging technologies. We have had an overwhelming response covering quantum, AI, sustainable technologies, bioengineering, semiconductors, etc. And for next division, the diaspora is an extremely important set to look for mentors in these areas to help create the correct synapses required for the strategies and the implementation of these EOIs towards applications on the ground. So we would welcome volunteers. In recent times, we have seen an intensification of engagement with the diaspora, whether it's the STIP2020 consultations, the WebHub Summit, or the Prabhas portal, which is being set up effectively to engage with the Indian global science and technology community. In my overseas assignments, I've also seen firsthand the limitations that come across the diaspora and our efforts in terms of the dual-use export restrictions. I've seen them in US, Germany, France, Canada, Vienna, etc. And I've also seen the close connect between research done in universities and then commercialization of the applications by industry. And I have to say that we tried to push this unsuccessfully in India many years ago, but in the context of the diaspora today and the policies today, there were 3 quick points I wanted to make. One was that the diaspora scientific community is, to my mind, most important for creating the connecting corridors on innovation and emerging technologies. But they can also be the best collaborators on how to ensure that Government of India attempts to link the diaspora to a forward-looking STIP 2020 are in sync with the compliance and technology transfer regulations of the home countries. And that is an exercise to be done together with you if we are to create a formal institutional mechanism to link the diaspora to India, as the Honorable Minister said. Innovation in emerging technologies is not only going to be unprecedented in scope, but it will impact every facet of human life. These emerging technologies will demand and feed on cross-border collaborations. And I'd like to emphasize that the link up of the diaspora to India is a natural step in this direction. It is meant to be open, transparent, and to mutual benefit of not just India and the diaspora, but also the countries that all of you are now calling home. And of course, the experienced diaspora segment is very important. They know and understand Indian requirements and can help adapt emerging technologies to meet requirements and specifics. But I think we also need to focus, and this is what we would like to hear from you perhaps, on the next gen in India and in the diaspora. Who are the real assets for futuristic innovation and bridging? Your mentoring this future bridge as experienced members of the diaspora will be a very important aspect to begin focus on now. Thank you. I'll stop here.
Thank you, Ambassador Paul. Let me invite my co-moderator, Radhika, to begin with our diaspora representatives. Radhika, over to you.
Thanks a lot, Chagun. A very good evening to all. I once again sincerely thank our Honorable Minister, Dr. Harshvardhan, our esteemed panelists, Professor Vijay Raghavan, Professor Ashutosh Sharma, Dr. Vijay Chauthewale, and Ambassador Renu Paul. And most importantly, diaspora representatives joining us from various parts of the world for this important engagement. I'm delighted to share that we have a diverse representation in terms of region, sector, academic and industrial background and profession. Joining from a spectrum of time zones, many have sacrificed their sleep and some have woken up early and few have skipped their Saturday plans, particularly for this engagement. A special thanks for that. We're also joined by our science counselor from Indian diplomatic missions at Washington, D.C., Moscow, Tokyo, and Berlin. Now, I would like to start with our Diaspora interactive session to get their recommendations, suggestions, ideas, and thoughts to shape the upcoming Science, Technology, and Innovation Policy, popularly known as STIP 2020. Due to paucity of time, we would request each diaspora representative to stick to the time frame of 1 to 2 minutes. To begin with, let me now call upon Professor Satish K. Tripathi, an international distinguished researcher and leader, a higher education, currently president of the State University of New York at Buffalo, USA. Over to you, Professor Satish.
Thank you, Radhika, and Honorable Minister Dr. Harshvardhan, and respected panelists. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Thank you so much for inviting me to participate on this panel. I also want to congratulate the Government of India for adopting a comprehensive, collaborative approach to formulating science, technology, and innovation policy. And I'm happy to see that thousands of people have already participated and are participating. As we heard, India definitely has made a considerable progress in science and technology, and Honorable Minister has outlined some of this in his inaugural address. Development in science and technology worldwide is really moving very fast, so we have to double down our speed in terms of how we make progress. COVID-19 has definitely divided the society into haves and have-nots, not just in India, worldwide. Actually, I'm on a panel here in New York State, governor's panel, to look at the impact of COVID-19 on the society here. And at the same time, COVID-19 has shown the power of technology, really things that we could not do before. Being at a distance, we can do that now. So that definitely the problem has created a solution that we should look at and see how we can connect the entire country, the rural and the urban areas. I come from a very rural background in UP, and I did my high school from village school, so I really understand. I visit there as well. I think the COVID-19 has created even suboptimal solutions for the people in the villages. As Secretary Dr. Sharma said, that any policy that we come up with should be inclusive, not only in terms of gender, but also in terms of geography, in terms of the rural areas where there are schools, but there may not be connectivity, which basically means that for the science policy, we got to have connectivity. We got to have universal digital connectivity and literacy across India. That's something that is not important just for India. We're working on that here as well. There are islands where there's no connectivity here as well. So I feel that the collaboration with the diaspora has gotten easier in the last few months. We can connect to each other. We are comfortable connecting with each other, and actually without traveling from a country to another country. So definitely, if we got a good connectivity, and diaspora, people that I know, people who have really stayed here for a while, students who come here all the time, we got about 2,000 students from India on the campus. They are connected, and they definitely want to work. So how do we really make that? Ambassador Paul talked about the issues of intellectual property and exports and so on. That's a real issue here, actually. We deal that with every day as an administrator. This is something that the government is very careful about. And I think we need to think about that. And there are creative ways to work on it. And that really should be one of the things to look at. The other aspect, really, from an exciting viewpoint for a researcher is to look at complex systems, complex problems. And as was very rightly said by Professor Vijay Raghavan, I'm sorry, there are too many Vijay somebody said, as was said by Professor Vijay Raghavan, this actually requires collaboration not just with scientists and technologists, but the social scientists. The world's problems are very, very complex. And whether underlying technology is information technology, underlying technology is the AI and machine learning, whatever the new technologies are coming through right now and we're working on, the problems really are very complex. And these are societal problems. And if we can create major centers of these complex system solutions that can come up with solutions to healthcare, solutions that Professor Sharma talked about in terms of the emerging technologies, I think there would be a lot more attractions for the scientists and technologists from the US to collaborate and work in those areas. I also think that many of these centers should not be standalone. They should be connected to a university, because I think next generation of scientists is very important. I think my 2 minutes are almost up, so I'm going to stop at that and happy to participate in the discussion.
Thank you so much, Professor Tripathi, for touching vital issues in terms of inclusivity, especially with the rural setup. I thank you once again. With this, I move to our second diaspora representative, Dr. Vijay Saraswat, Managing Director and Global Head, Artificial Intelligence Research and Development at Goldman Sachs, US. Distinguished researcher in computer science and artificial intelligence with a 30-year career at IBM Research, AT&T Research, and Xerox Palo Alto Research Center. I welcome you, Dr. Vijay Saraswat. Over to you.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be here. First of all, thank you for inviting me. And hello to all my colleagues on the panel, to Honorable Minister and other representatives of the government. I have very little time, so let me focus on something that I think is absolutely profound about where we are today in the history of human society. And ultimately, what this boils down to is that tremendous advances, what 30, 35 years of Moore's law, tremendous advances in computation and connectivity, and now artificial intelligence and machine learning are changing the ways in which societies worldwide get together, in the ways in which information is produced, generated, disseminated, in which common viewpoints are brought together. And we are seeing the extraordinary consequences of this throughout all of social media, throughout the way that democracy works in countries like in the United States. This is in part due to a few things. I mentioned computation and its tremendous progress over exponential growth over a number of years. Also, the growth in the number of scientists in the world. 80% of all scientists who have ever lived, ever in the history of humanity, are alive now. So a tremendous amount of research output is actually being produced at this very time, at this very moment. So taken together, what these offer is an extraordinary opportunity to engage worldwide around the foundations of the new way of essentially communicating and living based on AI and machine network connectivity, offer new opportunities for engaging in that kind of research with research colleagues throughout the world. I think the modern era this year has taught us that technologies like Zoom are actually quite usable today. This very conversation we are having, there is no reason why this is to be done only once in a year. Regular standing interactions between research communities, research members at different universities in India, in the US, could actually be quite feasible now, or worldwide, could be quite feasible now. Let me add another thing. This scale of this increased scale of scientific thought, of the number of scientists in the world, I think should get reflected in things like Government of India's program, the Fulbright Nehru scholarships that permit scientists to travel abroad. There's 65 of those. There should be 100 times that. And going not just to universities in foreign countries, but to private labs. It's the private research centers, it's the IBMs of the world research center, Google's, and now we have started our research center that offer opportunities for developing deep learning, developing these advanced machine learning and AI-based technologies. And they are a setting in which the application of these ideas to the development of professional level competency is possible. So universities, so folks from India coming on Government of India scholarships, large number of them, to private research centers, not just universities. I think that could make a difference. Let me stop here. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Saraswat, for elucidating the needs of the modern era, the modern India, what it requires in terms of enhanced number of scientific human resource. So here I will request Professor Ashutosh Sharma, one of our elite panelists, to reflect upon the suggestions we have received so far. So we'll have a viewpoint from our panelists and then we move to the next on-call diaspora representative. Professor Ashutosh, if it's okay, you can...
Did you call me, Radhika?
Yeah, I just called you to quickly have...
No, I'm in the listening mode, and certainly there have been a couple of very valuable suggestions which are actionable, and that we certainly would be incorporated in our policy. and these thoughts are indeed very important, and that we have been talking about them, in fact. So it brings greater clarity. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much. I pass the floor to my co-moderator, Chagun, now.
Thank you, Radhika. Thank you, Professor Sharma. I think that was a close call, and we have these surprise calls to all the panelists so that to get the responses. Let me now move on to the next on-call diaspora panelist, Dr. Bipashi Ghosh. Dr. Bipashi Ghosh is from Science Policy Research Unit of University of Sussex, UK. She's a postdoctoral research fellow there. As a scholar of innovation policy, she's developing a new model called Transformative Innovation Policy Model. Dr. Ghosh, please go ahead and give your thoughts.
Thank you. Thank you all for the opportunity. My input is indeed as an innovation science scholar, and I'm based in the University of Sussex in UK. So I have actually two suggestions and two corresponding questions, if I may. So my first suggestion is about the nature of innovations that the policy needs to support in order to actually meet the Sustainable Development Goals, the 17 SDGs. And I propose that the policy should nurture social innovations, as I was also said by one of my previous colleagues, so it's not needs to nurture social innovations, which goes beyond developing just new technologies and targeting those innovations, more importantly, for achieving greater social and environmental justice. So my first question is actually whether India's new STI policy will support innovations in society that promises social and ecological well-being, and in what ways will it do so? My second point is more about the kind of potential engagement of interdisciplinary scholars like us from the diaspora in implementing and evaluating the new STI policy. So here I suggest kind of a co-creation mode where policy evaluation and learning is actually part of the implementation process and not left until the end of it. So my second question following that is whether a kind of policy co-creation is feasible with interdisciplinary science policy scholars from the Indian diaspora in the implementation phase of the new policy, and how might that look like? Happy to discuss these further on any of these two topics. Thank you very much for the attention.
Yeah, thank you, Bipashi, so much for bringing the relevance of social innovation and interdisciplinary research. These are very well captured in new policy, and definitely we are going to have a discussion on that. Just before that, I'll just move to our next panelist, and then we can collectively take the comments that we are receiving from our on-call diaspora representative. So next is with us, Mr. Mushir Ahmed, co-founder of India Tech and FinTech Association, located in Hong Kong, founder of STIP Asia. Mushir is a member of United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and Pacific, Sustainable Business Network, and Youth and Women Entrepreneurship Task Force. We welcome you, Mr. Mushir Ahmed. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Radhika, and thank you to the Honorable Minister for taking comments from the Indian diaspora. I've been based in Hong Kong for the last 6.5 years, having come here to do my MBA. I work very closely in the science field in terms of fintech in particular, and to promote Indian startups here in Hong Kong. We work closely with the Consul General of India for Hong Kong and Macau, and run events and initiatives here. My 2 points are reflect a bit with what Ambassador Paul was talking about in terms of commercialization that was attempted a few years ago, and I feel that is a very important element of how we can reshape Indian technology. We've been very strong in providing IT services globally and probably the best in the world at that, but we have to still, we're still working work in progress when it comes to IP. One key thing you see in the Western universities, especially with the big firms, is a strong partnership on research and development and commercialization between universities and technology firms. And this enables a lot of growth of IP, and I feel that is going to be an important element for us to encourage our technology firms to home grow R&D and to have other firms work closely with universities to co-develop IP which can be implemented commercially. So not just increasing the number of research papers we develop, but how can they be commercialized? Because at the end of it, that's the thing that's going to fuel our economy further as we move towards a 5 trillion economy that the Prime Minister has envisioned. One of my recommendations for this would be to allow companies to offset their CSR commitments, which we have as a compulsory element for industries and companies in India, with a investment into R&D in the university. So that should be included. So if you can include the investment in R&D as part of the CSR commitments, that can get more funding for academics to focus on future technology development, and also enable for the industrialists and businesses to help co-develop IP. My second comment is with regards to export of Indian technology. We've had a lot of diaspora like myself who have gone overseas and work in the technology field, but we are now maturing when it comes to development of homegrown technology. Things like the UPI, which has come through the India stack, has been very influential and shown that what we can achieve. I think it's remarkable, and the world still marvels at how we managed to do the biometrics of over 1.2 billion people in a short space of time and very efficiently. And the Aadhaar based on India stack is very important. So one recommendation is, how can we enable Indian startups who want to go overseas, but they lack resources? Can we play a leadership role by exporting our technology and startups to the other developing world? I think as a policy as well, it's going to be important for us to engage with other countries, in particular in Asia, Latin America, and Africa, and providing government grants and schemes to support this export of technology, and for our firms to set up overseas and enable these ecosystems. These are still emerging and still need support through our strong technology, which has enabled and fueled millions of businesses and our economy. Would be a good way for us to internationalize our technology. What NPCI is now planning with UPI, I think something like that would be a great process. So with that, I would like to end my comments, and I look forward to interacting more with the diaspora. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mushir. Thanks for those elaborate comments. Also, I think that's taken note, and we'll take it up in the discussions as well. Now, let us hear from Mr. Ashish Mishra. Mr. Ashish is based in Singapore. He's a vice president of technology in a multinational bank there, and most importantly, he's a founder of Durga Foundation in UP, which trained 20,000 rural students to take up careers in high-tech areas and in education sector. Ashish, over to you for your comments.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Shagun, and thanks entire team for giving me this opportunity to speak today. I have 3 points to raise today. The very first one is, we need to inculcate scientific thought process in the rural areas and rural kids at the level of the panchayat, primary schools, etc. Because that's where we can find our new Dr. Kalam. Once this scientific thought process is in their mind, they will subsequently take the path of innovation and entrepreneurship. So why I'm stressing on this one, when you look at a small carpenter, when his son or daughter will look at work that he's doing, and when they apply their scientific thought process, their innovative approach, and their entrepreneurship, probably that's where India will be able to produce its own IKEA. And that's how India will be able to be truly Atmanirbhar. The second point, for example, I come from a small village. My dad is farmer. So when I look at the farming community, the next generation, if they have that scientific thought process, what will they do? They will not just think of producing. They will think of producing more per acre. They will think of supply chain, storage, how can use technology, artificial intelligence, and other things to optimize the route to deliver to the consumer. So this is what the scientific thought process can influence, can change in the rural area. The first point is we need to push more science in the rural area. The second thing, this COVID has proved to be a boon for digital economy and digital ecosystem. We are digitizing more and more than what we thought 1 year back. So we need to train our rural folks and small town folks in more digital literacy. We have very good demographic advantage. We have young population, and we have probably cheapest data in India. We can use this combination to prepare a workforce for global economy, not just for locally for India. And with this cheap data, is when I mentioned, I want to see that how the learner and the teacher for scientific thought process can come together, whether they are sitting in Singapore or Washington, DC or anywhere. Third one, when I talk to the people, the funding is always, I see a big problem. So how can we fund those innovators, those scientists to come up with their own IPs and produce it at scale? So these are the 3 points that I want to highlight today, and I want this committee to take care of this. Thank you. I will stop here.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ashish Mishra. We definitely aspire for our own IKEA for and tech import. With this, I am going to have another surprise comment from our panelist, Dr. Vijay Chauthiwale. If I take permission from your side to have a quick intervention from you on the suggestions that we are receiving. Over to you, Dr. Vijay Chauthiwale.
Thank you. Just to add on some of the things which have been mentioned right now, I'm very happy to mention that inculcating scientific inquisitiveness among the school children is one of the major agenda of this government, and many of you might be aware that Atal Innovation Mission, which has been named after late Atal Bihari Vajpayee, our former Prime Minister, under Niti Aayog, is precisely doing it. They have opened close to 7,000 what we call it as a tinkering labs in the schools. Majority of them are in the public funded schools, Kendriya Vidyalaya, and also state funded schools, and it is giving a marvelous result over last 3 years. So a lot of things are happening at a school level. Similarly, the IP policies have been changed significantly in last 4 years, where the IPs, which is if it is encashed and if IP is generated in India, then the capital gains tax is significantly lower than the normal. So there are a lot of transformational change that has been taking place in India, and I'm sure the new STIP 2020 is also going to further enhance these interactions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Vijay. Definitely the Atal Mission initiatives are going to be in the true sense in our upcoming STI policy. With this, I move to our next on-call diaspora representative, Dr. Avijit Banik. He's a postdoctoral fellow at Emory University in US and will be representing SciRoy, that is a Science and Research Opportunities in India, a diaspora organization. It's a US-based volunteer-driven non-profit organization that is simply fostering an informed transition of young Indian STEM scholars training abroad to the Indian ecosystem. Over to you, Abhijit.
Thank you, Radhika. Hello, everyone. Warm greetings to all the panelists and other, diaspora representatives here. I feel honored to represent SciRoy on this platform. Along with facilitating the transition of Indian diaspora, SciRoy is also involved in enabling smooth integration of young STEM professionals from abroad into the Indian scientific community. So to understand the challenges faced by our young investigators in India, we have recently conducted a survey on our SciRoy platform, the outcome of which is forwarded to the STIP Secretariat for deliberation. The survey has identified major challenges faced by them, such as restriction in grant money release and utilization, lack of state-of-the-art centralized facilities, and delay in resource acquisition as potential roadblocks during their initial stages of research career after transitioning to India. So we understand most of them need institutional reforms, but it is strongly believed that favorable reforms in policy can enable them to overcome those challenges. So I would like to change the attention a little bit towards empowering the returning young professionals. So my question to the panel is, what structural reforms do you plan to put forward in this new STA policy to empower them to perform at the higher levels? So that's where I'll stop. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Abhijit, yeah, so there was an echo. I've just muted you. Thanks, Abhijit. So I'm going to wait for one more diaspora representative to speak, and then we'll take it up for the next comments. Yeah. Now let me call upon Dr. Hema Prabha. Dr. Hema Prabha is a postdoctoral fellow at Technion Israel Institute of Technology, and she's a recognized science communicator and a regular contributor to Tamil regional print media. Even during the Corona COVID crisis, she has been a regular contributor to many of the regional outlets in Tamil, as well as she contributed to the Indian Scientist Response to COVID-19 platform for the infodemic rumor regarding the coronavirus. Hema, over to you.
Thank you, Radhika and Shakti. It's my honor and pleasure to be a part of this distinguished forum, chaired by the Honorable Minister in formulating the Science and Technology Innovation Policy of India. I'm going to give two suggestions, and they are in terms of keeping the knowledge resource of India back in India. Like, we are well aware that India wants to progress in developing indigenous science and technology. In this regard, we know that Indian scientists and companies in various disciplines are giving their helping hands. However, the major resource of the country, that is the knowledge of students in bachelor's and master level, remain unutilized, and it's often exported to other nations. Unless this resource is being kept in India, achieving indigenous science and technology is difficult. So my suggestions are going to be in this aspect. My first suggestion is the project submission at the bachelor's and master level are mostly seen as some duty to be completed to get the degree. Rather, if the institutions can assign an effective public service project from the local government authority, which can be monitored and supervised by the committee of professors. For example, the PWD project can be given to the local civil engineering colleges in parallel with the government employed engineers. Since every year thousands of bachelor's and master's students graduate, they can complete very simple but effective projects. So these completed projects can be compared, corrected, and replaced with the projects done by the authorities. So this will help the students to understand the government organizational hierarchy and endorse them to serve the nation, as many of these projects can enable them to interact with the society in a much more tangible way. And in this regard, my second suggestion is to immensely increasing the academic and corporate internship opportunities for these students who are at the master's and bachelor's level, so that they are well aware of the situation which is going on outside. The internships can be involving various disciplines, right from government surveys to the high-end projects. This kind of projects done by the students can make them feel inclusive of the environment, and they will also feel inclusive of the part of the development. It also provides them to understand the technological requirements and operate them at the entrepreneur level in the future. So I think this will reflect positively in the advancement of the indigenous science and technology in par with the nation's human resource. So my suggestions are basically these two. Thank you again for giving me this opportunity.
Thanks a lot, Hema Prabha, for your inputs. So I just moved to the next diaspora representative, Dr. Umesh Mukhi. He's an assistant professor of management at FGE in Brazil. Professor Mukhi is also a recipient for Tesla Silver Coin Award in 2014 for youth empowerment and holds the title of Honorary Cross-Cultural Ambassador of UNESCO Club in the Paris University for his educational and intercultural contribution. I invite you, Dr. Mukhi. Over to you.
Thank you very much, esteemed members and organizers. It's really a great honor, I would say, for especially for me, who is doing this for the first time. So having government seeking public consultation and engaging Indian diaspora is something very symbolic, and it means a lot, especially for me who is doing this for the first time. Without losing any time, I have four different comments which I would like to suggest, and then eventually have the feedback from the panelists. When we look at the foreign policy of India, we've seen that foreign policy has been focused towards P5 countries. And obviously, we have our economic and defense interests in that. However, I've seen that there have been rapid changes in the way foreign policy has changed because of the emergence of new technologies. Developed countries have been very fast to understand that trend and incentivize their research and innovation universities who are active in that so that they become active part of it. So when the foreign policy of that country is moving, they carry the baggage of the universities and the technology and the innovation with them. This is what I've seen, at least in France. I do see that in US as well. So I think when we are talking about this policy, we have two challenges. We have to address the internal challenges of India, in which you have technology going at very fast pace, but we have some very basic problems to solve. So we have to see that how this policy solves internal problems, but let us look at the external side. We are forgetting that we are also the part of global South. Africa, Southeast Asia, Latin America presents huge opportunities to us, which due to linguistic barriers, we have not been able to capitalize. In fact, the opening of Chile's consulate in Mumbai just signals that India has a huge potential in streamlining its innovation, helping Indian companies, helping Latin American universities, forging partnerships with them, with India, to see that we become an active player, not just in global North, but in global South. So that takes me to the third point, that we need to have an active innovation-related foreign policy towards the global South. And this is fact-based. When I was talking to Brazilian ambassador, he said that when he wrote to Brazilian institutes about partnering with India, only 1 or 2 of them replied. We cannot expect one of the major players in Latin America where universities are not interested in collaborating with Indian ecosystem. And at the same time, yesterday, we saw the launch of India-Brazil Startup Bridge. So we know that there is an untapped potential which needs to be explored, which needs to be the part of our larger foreign policy when we are looking at Africa or Latin America. And that leads me to the last point. To some extent, we are also culturally disconnected. When I'm talking about science diplomacy, we do not have many academics or diplomats or professionals who would be able to engage these different countries who speak radically different language than English. And that's why it is a clear fact that why we have more Indian diaspora in Anglo-Saxon countries compared to non-Anglo-Saxon countries. So we need the presence of science diplomats who are obviously technically trained, but also culturally trained, because it is extremely important to forge a bridge with Latin America and Africa when it comes to move ahead with this whole baggage of technology, innovation, combined with the education potential of India, which India can offer to these countries and can also profit. You know, I have seen 2 companies in last 2 days who want to expand to Latin America, but they don't have any support. They have linguistic challenges. Indian companies, small startups are innovating. They want to enter into the Brazilian market and they want to explore how they want to do that. So I think there's a great potential in educational and innovation space, which needs to be the part of our structured foreign policy for Global South. So these are my 4 comments. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Umesh. Actually, you actually released the clue for our next surprise panel member to respond, and we know these comments are very, very pertaining to the issues that we have been discussing in STIP already. And I request Ambassador Renu Paul to respond to this in a way that what vision she shares with the new division and MEA's priorities for that. Over to you, Ambassador Paul.
Thank you, Shagun. Firstly, I have to say that Umesh's perspective was very monochromatic, and in diplomacy there is no black and white. There's a lot of gray. And actually, I would differ from you in certain respects, though I take the point you're making, and I think there's relevance there. But I would say that our challenge is not just how to become a player in the global South. Our challenge really is how to continue the inward trend of technology towards India so that our own indigenous development is matching up with the fastest development and innovation that we are seeing in some of the Western capitals, because that is something that builds capacity not just for us internally, but also in our role as the global South. Now, the second point I want to make is that actually there is a lot happening. with developing countries in India, and it's been very, very intensive in the last some years. Whether you look at not just the South Asian subcontinent or Southeast Asia or the Indian Ocean region or Central Asia or Africa, we have honed and improved and intensified the capacities in the Ministry of External Affairs, for instance, for developmental partnerships. And we are extending a lot of expertise, credit lines, and encouraging Indian companies to be our partners in this development story. So that is there. I think companies who have these individual experiences of not finding the support they need, whether it's the linguistic outreach into a market or understanding the market, etc., need to proactively engage with our missions. We for the last many years, we've been focusedly doing economic diplomacy, which is more than just going and participating in trade fairs. We've actually been working the B2B connects, the market connects for companies, giving them information which is relevant to their market access, etc., and actually taking it up in bilateral fora between the governments to make trade and economic relations more mainstay with countries where we've had political goodwill, but not had that aspect. What I would say is that, of course, I agree with your point that we're going to have to do it in a much more intensive manner. And again, both the tracks, not just what we can take out, but what we can also assimilate within. There was this point made about internal challenges, addressing that. And I think that's a good point, because it's only when you're seen as able to address your own internal challenges that you have credibility as a partner internationally. And I heard one of the participants talk about AI. I think the world tomorrow is going to use AI as a foundational building block as far as socio-economic transformation is concerned. It's going to be everywhere. It's not just education and training schools, but it's every aspect of life for the consumer and industry, for smart cities, for assisted agriculture, for non-invasive diagnosis in healthcare. COVID has shown we need treatment options to be available quickly to doctors across continents and countries to know which line is succeeding, which is not. In fact, COVID experience has also shown that we need to humanize the ICUs. So, there is a whole redefinition happening of processes and systems as we knew them, just because of AI and connectivity, which is becoming pervasive. It's you haven't mentioned space, but I would say space is another area for industry and research and governments to come together. There was this point about SDGs, and I would say that as a country, we've long been a votary of democratic and equitable access, and we've been trying to build partnerships in emerging technologies in a manner that delivers benefits and services and utilities to citizens. So the digital infrastructure definitely needs to be equitable, inclusive, but look at our own example internally. We've done it better than most places in the world. And of course, the challenge before governments everywhere is to remain human-centric, and how to become actually more and more human-centric towards their citizens. And again, COVID has actually demonstrated like never before that the world is interconnected. And all this talk about globalization not being good enough, or multilateralism being out, or nationalism and protectionism creeping in, is actually being shown in contrast by the COVID experience, that the world remains interconnected through borders and technologies. So I would say that it's a process which is evolving, adding to its capacities, and it needs the flexibility to constantly reorder and readjust itself to the new realities. But and this needs to be a collective process of thought, of refinement. It can't be work done in silos, and the information asymmetry has to reduce. And I think that is the point that I would agree with Umesh, that it's the information asymmetry between the players who need that information to become more effectively interlinked into what we are trying to do, and that needs to reduce. Our reference points need to be more visible and common, and that's what we are trying to do in terms of the NEST division, at least in the context of emerging technologies, as a synapses, where we enhance the capacity of our missions to be effective synapses, not just for individual scientists and researchers, but also for industry, also for the governments and the the line ministries, the different stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Paul. So let me quickly take up our next on-call diaspora panelist, Professor Bhagirath Singh. Professor Bhagirath Singh is from University of Alberta, Western University, as well as an advisor to many national and international organizations in health-related issues. He also served as a scientific director to Canadian Institute of Health Research, Institute of Infection and Immunity, Canada. Over to you, Dr. Singh.
Thank you for the invitation to speak. I'm delighted to be here. My expertise is in the healthcare and health research areas, so I will focus my comments in those two sectors. And there is a great opportunity for India to be involved both nationally and internationally in the innovation and technology development. So in addition to training and recruitment opportunities at a high level, I would suggest there are 5 or 6 areas where India can lead and contribute nationally as well as internationally in developing health policies and health innovations. So these I have divided into 3 parts. The first part deals with the advanced manufacturing technology. As you can see in the current climate with the COVID and other infectious disease models, that we have to have our own national priorities in terms of diagnosis, safety protocols, and so on and so forth. So developing advanced manufacturing technologies, and which obviously industry will be very much involved, bringing them on board with these issues will be critical in new policies which come forward. The other new areas which have evolved in the last little while is synthetic biology. I think India potentially can lead in synthetic biology, and the opportunities for using synthetic biology both in the healthcare sector as well as in biotechnology are immense. And I won't go into more detail, but clearly it should be on our radar. But the other is that India has a great potential in our Ayurvedic medicine, and that means the opportunities to develop medicinal plant products, particularly in the new areas of microbiome. I think India can certainly lead, and I think our technical expertise in that area can certainly benefit from what we have so far already developed. Going forward, I think it's already mentioned artificial, intelligence, and that's certainly an area where India can lead, and certainly we have opportunities to think through this, because diagnostic treatment and so on, and how to manage diseases, artificial intelligence is going to play a major role. And not only that, I think if we look at our computational expertise in India and globally how India has contributed, there is a great opportunity to develop large data sets and how to use them. And I think India can lead in that regard. These are areas which are coming along, for example, in imaging technology, in genetic technology, and surely they should be on our radar and should be part of the future plans as we go forward. And I'll also mention that all these can only be done in the context of the population and public health when we talk about health issues. And if we look at the social and ethical aspects of these new technologies and how they will impact both policies and security issues and cyber securities, I think something India should be thinking about and putting on our radar of not simply developing these things, but how to utilize for the benefit of our fellow human beings, both in India and abroad. I think I'll start with those comments, and I thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Dr. Singh, for your inputs. Now I quickly move to our next diaspora, Mr. Amit Tiwari. He is heading the Indian National Student Organization in UK. Over to you, Tiwari.
Thank you. So just before I give the details of our observations and comments, right, I must provide some information. So when we got this opportunity, we obviously sent it to our members, And our students, they're studying across various universities in Oxford, Cambridge, Warwick, etc. Right? And I must say it was received with a lot of positivity. They were taken aback, right? They actually got feeling like, oh, they want to ask us this. You know, it gave them a good feeling of engagement and an equity stakeholder in India's future, right? So on their behalf, I'd like to thank you all for this initiative and exercise. What we did is then we kind of sent them the question saying, please, can you provide the information? And they came, that we had to kind of bucket it down into 3 different categories, right? I must say the people who provide the information are mostly PhD doctors and scholars. And another fact which I must put out there is India PhD researchers for universities in UK and I'm sure globally. And the 3 points are very briefly, you know, a key aspect is to increase the research culture and infrastructure within the universities of India. Second point being the theme of decentralization, right? Theme of decentralization especially should bear fruits in relation to entrepreneurial approach within the framework of science and technology. And third point being, you know, we can also build strategic partnerships between the universities, both in India and UK, and likewise also the universities in India and the commercial industries in India. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Amit, for those clear points. And thanks for also engaging with the extended community there in UK. It's all going to be very useful for us in the consultation. Let me now quickly call Professor Prakash Kumar, a distinguished professor from Department of Biological Sciences and National University of Singapore. Professor Kumar.
Namaskar. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to present my 2 main suggestions. Well, India has no shortage of talent. ISRO just launched a new satellite yesterday or today, right? But resources and appropriate opportunities are limiting people's potential. Similarly, Indian science is ranked high in numbers, but quality needs urgent attention. So my first suggestion is make school teaching profession attractive and get the right people into the profession. So this is done effectively here, for example, in Singapore and several other countries. Coming from a family of teachers, my firm view is that if the teacher is not well-versed and knowledgeable as well as passionate in the subject, he or she cannot do a good job. For too long, we have been relying on people who take it up as a job when they have no other job opportunities, right? So we need to try and change this particular thing. And this relates to one of the, I think Ashish Mishra, someone who just pointed out that we need to inculcate scientific thinking. But the vehicle that brings this is the teacher. So we really should make school teaching profession attractive. Second, to raise the quality of science research now, India should create an equivalent of the cricket IPL for science, right? So Science, Technology and Innovation Premier League, or SciPL. So, excuse me. This can be in the form of labs with dedicated fellowships at several centers of excellence. So the SciPL should incentivize quality hiring coupled with expectations of top quality output. This will generate bigger pool of trained human resource that can compete with the best of the world right within India. The diaspora members can participate in the SciPL similar to the global talent playing in the cricket IPL without any conflict in nationality. A minor point is to remove the age limit of 60 years for the diaspora participants in such ventures. I was last year, I was involved in one of these, and the application went through all the processing stages. And then they came back and said, "Oh, sorry, you're 60 now, so you can't be a participant in this program. Can you help me find another person?" Right. So maybe this is something that the committee can keep in view. Right. So I mean, it is just a suggestion. The committee has hopefully the opportunity to look into it. Right. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you so much, Professor Prakash, especially for the unique initiative of SciPL, similar to the cricket IPL. Okay, with this, I move to our next diaspora representative, Mr. Subramaniam Natarajan. He's a director, Indian Commerce and Industry Association in Japan, and he's also founder and president of InfoView in Japan. Over to you, Mr. Natarajan.
Oh, thank you, Radhika. Thank you for the opportunity. And I don't have any specific suggestions because almost all my suggestions were discussed here by the panelists here. But I have been here in Japan for the past 30 years. I have been representing this Indian Chamber of Commerce, and also I have been meeting all the university professors here. So what I want to tell, only one point what I wanted to tell here is Japan is really spending a lot of, government of Japan is really spending a lot of money on this innovation and research. And especially what they do is like the university and the private companies and government of Japan, they integrate together and then they try to do a lot of research and then they try to bring out a lot of innovations here in Japan. So like that, right now, what they are trying to do is like they are trying to identify a lot of artificial intelligence and also the startups from India. Okay, so the Japanese companies and also the universities are now tying up with Indian startup companies where they can do a lot of artificial intelligence and also bringing a lot of innovations here. So my suggestion is like we can also do the same thing in India. Government of India and universities and the private companies and startup. This ecosystem can form a team and then we can create a lot of research and innovation activities. Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Natarajan. Thank you for bringing out what was not spoken so that the time is valued also. Thank you so much. Now, let me quickly call upon Professor V. Kumar Murthy, the Director of Fields Institute of Research in Mathematical Sciences and Professor of Mathematics from University of Toronto. He's a Fellow of Royal Society of Canada and a Foreign Fellow of National Academy of Sciences, India. Over to you, Professor Murthy.
Thank you very much for the invitation and for this collaborative discussion. It's a big subject and our time is limited, so let me just make state a few ideas and then we can elaborate later. Firstly, the science and technology policy that we're talking about needs to be comprehensive so that benefits reach everybody from villages to research institutes. Sometimes we tend to focus on one or the other, but in fact, it's the entire spectrum. Second, science and technology is not a panacea or a magic or an end in itself. It's a tool. It's a tool where the fundamental goal is to improve quality of life. And when we speak about quality of life, it's not just physical quality, but also to enable people to realize their aspirations wherever they are. That means as a tool in development, it has to be more than about physical infrastructure. The point I'm getting towards is that science and technology can drive something more important than physical infrastructure, that is learning. By learning, I mean actionable knowledge. And I think we're at a point now where education is the sector which is most ripe for disruption. And disruption in this area will lead to rewards that are exponential in growth. When I speak about learning, I view it as the new capital because it opens up the native genius of people, the future innovators, to address their own problems, and it builds our own capacity. So this is different from a top-down interventionist approach or a linear approach, which is much more capital intensive. Fields Institute has been experimenting with these ideas through a new initiative called MAGIC, Mathematics and Global Impact Center. And I'm happy to partner with anybody who's interested in collaborating on these ideas. We're looking not only at India, but Africa, indigenous populations in North America, everywhere to see how we can bring the combination of mathematics and this whole concept of science and technology for learning into practical and concrete form. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Professor Murthy. With our diaspora representatives, but our social media platforms are being floated with number of comments, number of questions. We are already running a little bit late, but still I would like to take one or two questions perhaps for our panelists. So here I go with my first question that I would request Professor Vijay Raghavan to address. That's a question that we have received from Harsha K. Rajasimha. How policy frameworks need to support global engagements, collaboration. Further asked, are we awaiting for some policy similar to HIPAA in USA or GDPR in European Union? Is it possible in India or not? Over to you, Professor Vijay Raghavan.
Thank you very much, Radhika. First of all, this engagement has been really exciting, listening to the range of people and their viewpoints. Before I answer the question from Harsha, let me just one important clarification of a point which came up from, I think, Mushir Ahmed, asking about corporate social responsibility in R&D. That has already been approved last year. CSR funds can go to R&D institutions and to government-approved incubators, and pharma and drug companies and vaccine companies working on COVID can also fund CSR money in those areas. Normally, CSR is not allowed in the areas where you work. There's the same kinds of areas, but for these companies as an exception. So CSR is a big open door, and it's very important that people interact on that. So that's one important point which I wanted to comment as a technical point before going on about global engagement. Now, India's global engagement in science and technology has grown dramatically in the last 5 years from a situation where initially it was largely in the basis of people-to-people, science-to-science collaborations or government-to-government collaborations on programs which the West and other countries decided was of interest to them. This has changed in the last 5 years into programs which have been initiated by Indian agencies with Indian collaborators globally. Now, this is also going to be amplified into big mission programs anchored in India, and these are not just basic science missions, but missions which deal with important aspects anchored in India, such as the Deep Ocean Mission, the Cyber Physical Mission, the Supercomputing Mission, the Quantum Mission. All of them have room for global collaborations anchored for developing both basic science and application in India. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Vijay. I think we have time to take one more comment from our public platform. I think this is coming from multiple channels, both from Twitter as well as from YouTube, about including more institutions for international connect. Is there any existing framework through which it all functions, or are we planning to do something through this policy to expand the engagement and increase our stakeholder participation, not just the government, but through private institutions research? I think this has been posted in various forms. Ankita Arora is also asking the similar question. Let me request maybe Ambassador Paul or Dr. Vijay Chautawale to respond to this. Maybe I'll start with Dr. Vijay and then Ambassador Paul.
I think it has been already being done at various stages. Maybe Dr. Vijay Raghavan can elaborate it more about it.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Chautawale. One very important factor which comes in here is what the Honorable Mantriji also alluded to in earlier days, is the science, technology and innovation policy is a sewn at the hip with the new national education policy. Now, the national education policy has a major component on higher education. In that higher education policy, international collaboration, both in India with the opening up of the Indian sector to collaboration with universities abroad, and also international collaboration in higher education has been set up. Also in the higher education policy is the National Research Foundation. That National Research Foundation will open up research to our state universities and our regional sectors. 90% of our students go to colleges and universities in the state sector, but 90% of our current research funds go to our central universities and central institutions. This will change dramatically in a partnership with our science agencies through the National Research Foundation, where the building up of capability in all the rest of the country will take place for research related to, this is a very important component related to critical thinking and analysis, which Dr. Murthy also pointed out. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Professor Vijay, and thank you, Dr. Vijay Chataiwal, for that comment. Let me quickly hear from Ambassador Paul, and then we'll listen from Minister for the concluding remarks. Ambassador Paul?
I think PSA has already, Principal Scientific Advisor has already detailed it. I really would not want to add anything to that.
Yes. Thank you, Ambassador Paul. Now we have listened to a variety of thoughts from our diaspora representatives from various parts of the world, and also from the diversity that we have seen from the academic side, industry side, and associations, industry, commerce. And we also have our on-call counselors, SNT counselors. We have 4 of them, and Dr. Madhusudan Reddy, Dr. Shirotia, and Dr. Usha Dikshit, and Dr. Dhananjay Tiwari. And they are all part of our team. So we have been anyway engaging with them, and they are going to take this forward within their countries also, wherever they are hosted right now. With that, let me quickly move to the final segment, the concluding session. Request Honorable Minister Dr. Harshvardhan Ji to summarize and give his final thoughts and concluding remarks for this session. Over to you, sir.
It's really beyond my vocabulary to express my happiness and satisfaction, because the comments that have been made by very important, very senior, very experienced, very committed and sincere people working in the field of science and representing India all over the world, from all parts of the globe, I think it speaks volumes about their commitment for the country and the type of good work that they are doing, and their passion also for improvement of things in India. And they are also equally passionate as our Prime Minister to ensure that India becomes one of the top 2-3 scientific nations in another 10 years from now. Because all of them had been very, very sincere in their comments. If I have to quickly recall, I think the first comment that came was from Dr. Tiwari, and he has rightly, Dr. Tripathi, he has rightly reminded us about involving the social scientists in the whole scheme of things. Although we are already, you see, our Prime Minister has always been talking about the scientific social responsibility. We have always been impressing upon people that it's not about the definition of impact factor, how many times it is read by people, but how much it actually impacts the lives of the people. How does it solve the problems of the people? How does it alleviate the sufferings of the people? And right now, we are in a stage where there is a cabinet note around the scientific social responsibility. And of course, the suggestion that has been given about institutionalizing the involvement of the social scientists in the, not only the formulation of the scientific policy, but also in involving them in our day-to-day working. I think that really is a very good suggestion On most of the issues, I find that the thoughts of our Indian scientists across the globe, they gel quite well with the vision of our Prime Minister and with the thinking that our present people in the Science Ministry actually enjoy. And these are exactly the same lines on which we are trying to. I have to thank Dr. Vijay Saraswat. He said we have to, in the modern era, it's not it should be the type of technology now that we have, and the way COVID has actually reminded us that this was the way to connect with the people. This is not that COVID has brought this way to connect with people, but it has reminded us that this is a useful way of connecting. And he has very rightly said that in the modern era we have to keep engaging worldwide with our scientists, and I think that's a very beautiful suggestion. It should not be once in a year itself, and it's of course to improve the scale of thought. And he has said that then he suggested about this should be reflected in scaling up the Fulbright scholarships, etc. And I strongly feel that with our consulars there, with our diplomats in all the countries, and of course with the Indian scientists involved with all the good institutions all over the world, the Science and Technology Ministry here should try for future to institutionalize a good quality official connect with every scientist, every Indian scientist who is a member of the Indian diaspora all across the world. And I think this we should take up as a challenge. We should develop our scientists in various countries as the leaders there, who would, apart from doing science, who would organize this part of the activity also for the Indian science. And I think if we fix up a tenure of say 365 days to organize everyone all across the world, I think that would yield very rich dividends. Dr. Vipashi Ghosh, I think she has very rightly reminded us about the importance of social innovation and also the role of ecological innovation. And I think the engagement of interdisciplinary scholars from the diaspora. So these are very, very important points. Mr. Mushir Ahmed, he has again highlighted, which we have also been facing as a problem also, and which we also have been time and again impressing upon the scientific community, that research, if it remains confined to the laboratories, and if it doesn't get commercialized, if it doesn't get transferred to the industry, if it doesn't get transferred to the people of India for being used for their the outcome of research to be used by them for improving their life, then it has no meaning. So he has very rightly reminded us about it. And then about the industry CSR activities to be more focused about that Professor Agban said that this is already there, but I think the point that has been made, it needs to be, I think, strengthened quite a bit, that the industry CSR activities have to be strengthening the research within the universities. And also he has said about enabling the startups who want to go and engage abroad. They should also be supported in big way for export of technology. Then Mr. Ashish Mishra, he has very rightly pointed out about the strengthening of the scientific thought process at the rural level, the panchayat level. And I think anything when we deliberate, and if we don't remember Professor Kalam, I think that meeting is not worth it. I think he has rightly reminded us about that. And for using the Indian youth workforce for helping the global economy also. And then he has mentioned about the funding of innovators. So I must tell you that last couple of years we have been organizing these India International Science Festivals, and at that level also from the villages and from the adopted villages of the parliamentarians, we make sure that we have students coming and participating in these India International Science Festivals. So there is a bit of a thought around that, but this definitely we would like to institutionalize as suggested by Ashish Mishra. Dr. Abhijit Panik, he has highlighted the need for structural reforms, and then Dr. Hem Prabha, you have of course very rightly pointed out that the potential of the science graduates and the postgraduates, it has to be actually optimally utilized. Right now she is right that it is not utilized, and the way she has suggested that they have to be involved in public service projects with the involvement of the government there, and of course the internship for these students in various fields, I think it's a perfect and a very, very bright, useful suggestion. Dr. Umesh Mukhi, I think his concern around the foreign policy has been very elaborately addressed by Madam Paul ji. So I may not mention about it, but he has, I think, very rightly said that it's not only for India, but for a global approach. We need stronger and better collaboration and a larger aspects of the foreign policy, more particularly for the African and the Latin American nations, and the presence of science diplomats. I think the issue has been addressed by her. Dr. Bhagirath Singh, I'm so happy that he has spoken about health research, because I, being a health professional, that is my first passion, but after having come to science and having enjoyed and seen science from the closest of quarters, I now consider that it is probably the greatest blessing in disguise of my life, and I am strongly convinced that science can help everything, every problem on earth, it can be solved with the help of science. And for health, this could be the greatest boon. Science, that's why the way he mentioned about COVID and health policy research, health innovations, and for diagnosis, treatment, public health, I think that's, and he has very strongly expressed the hope that India has the potential to lead. Then Amit Tiwari ji, thank you so much that you have sent our appeal to a large number of students who are associated with your organization, and your the summary of the suggestions that you have received from them regarding improving the research culture and the infrastructure in the institutions, about decentralization and the entrepreneurship approach, and then of course partnership between the universities of UK and India, and of course the industries and the commercial industries in India, the public sector and the private sector industries. I think these are all very well-meaning suggestions, and the way they have come from the students. And I am sure that this whatever we have seen just now, it's just only the tip of the iceberg. Ultimately, with so many suggestions that have come, that are coming, that are flowing, this interaction with the diaspora will prove to be a great, I think, help and support in drafting a very vibrant and a very dynamic policy. Professor Prakash Kumar, you have spoken about, that's also a fantastic point, that unless that is also true, that somebody who doesn't get a job anywhere, ultimately he becomes a teacher. And if he becomes a science teacher without any passion and without any professional way of teaching or attracting the students, I think that may not help in ultimately developing good, great scientists, the good, great C.V. Ramans and the Jagdish Chandra Bose of future. So the suggestion about strengthening professionally how we inculcate this scientific temper amongst the students, and the quality of science and research, and the fantastic bright suggestion about these IPL of cricket being sort of replicated in field of science as science IPLs with, you see, quality hiring and where diaspora people can also participate. This is also a great suggestion. Mr. Subramaniam Natarajan, you have talked about strengthening the overall ecosystem and the industry and the startups and all the other relevant people, the Professor Murthy and others. I think everyone has the time doesn't permit me to talk in detail about each and every suggestion that you have, but it certainly convinces me that people across the globe, you see, this is just a representative sample. You have a very clear thoughts and very penetrative vision about what India should be doing, and I think this is not the end of it. This is just a very small, humble beginning that we made through this meeting for the diaspora, and you know that already India has made huge strides in the field of science, and that is reflected in our, you see, recognition all over the world. When we say that in number of publications in SCI journals, from 6th position all over the world in 2013, we have come down to 3rd position now. We have come down to 3rd position in number of PhDs. It's almost producing 25,000 PhDs every year. That is just after America, which is producing 39,000, and China, which is producing 34,000 PhDs. We are producing 25,000. That's the 3rd position again. We are 3rd in the world in higher education systems. We are 3rd in the world in number of startups. We are 3rd in the world in the number of unicorns. And you know that the Global Innovation Index in the last 5 years, from 81 ranking, we have come down to 48. And in ease of doing business in the last 6 years, from 142, we have climbed down to 63. I think that's so much of, you see, rise and improvement. Women participation in R&D has already doubled. We have 3.4 lakh R&D personnel, and 40%, that's a 40% increase from 2014 when Prime Minister Narendra Modi took over. So, and it's not only here, but even in our CSIR laboratories, in a list of almost 1,200 institutions all over the world, which are supported by public money for doing research, producing innovation, technology, and delivering it to the industry and then to the people. We have a ranking which is between 10 and 15. Sometimes it becomes 9, sometimes it goes up to 15. So that is in a list of over 1,200. That's the international ranking that we enjoy in CSIR. And then because this function is dedicated for the Indian diaspora, I have to just tell you that there are so many innovative schemes that we have developed over the last 5 years under Prime Minister Modi to ensure that we are able to attract the scientists in the diaspora to come back to India, and there's a significant, perceptible, measurable change. It's no longer a brain drain. It is now a brain gain in the country. And we have schemes like Vajra, which is the Visiting Advanced Joint Research Faculty Scheme. We have schemes like Gyan, Global Initiative for Academic Networks. We have schemes like Spark, Scheme for Promotion of Academia and Research Collaborations. We have schemes like Ramanujan Fellowships. We have schemes like Rama Lingaswamy Re-Entry Fellowships. We have schemes like Inspire Faculty Awards. We have opportunities in bilateral programs through the bilateral projects which are supported by the international division of our DST, our Department of Biotechnology, and our Ministry of Earth Sciences. So there are so many activities which are happening inside India for people like you, and I would like to use this occasion to also offer to you, on behalf of our Prime Minister, that there is so much that has changed in the country in the last 5-6 years. There is so much that has developed in science and in our institutions and in our laboratories for you people to not only support from there. You can come here permanently, you can come here temporarily, you can be supported by any of these schemes, or maybe you can suggest some better schemes where ultimately we want every Indian all across the globe in science to be working there, because we always believe in India that science, it could be done locally, but it is for the whole world. Its benefits and fruits have to be enjoyed by the whole world. So even if you are working there, you are working for us, we know. So we would love to have more and more suggestions how the Indian scientific department or our policy can help you to help humanity and also help back India. Those are some of those suggestions that we would further like to explore, and as suggested by you people also, and as our wishes also in that direction, we would like to, in the new policy, institutionalize our mechanism to remain in contact with the scientific community, at least of Indians all across the world, all the time, all across the year. That's our desire, that's our wish, and that's, I think, going to be our vision, and that's what the Prime Minister also wants. So with these, I think, few words, once again, I express my gratitude to all of you on behalf of, and of course, not only to the speakers who have spoken today, but of course to everyone who is connected to this program, or who may not have got himself connected, but who has his feelings for India and for Indian science. We express our gratitude to all of you, and we promise you that we will give you back a science, technology, innovation policy 2020, which has never been seen, never been heard of. And this science policy of 2020 is certainly going to drive India towards a new India in 2022, in Atmanirbhar Bharat in the near future, and of course a Vishwa Guru Bharat in the next one decade. So with these few words, once again, thank you, Namaskar, Jai Hind, Bharat Mata Ki Jai.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir, for those encouraging and enlightening words, and summarizing all of that and to bring it to a shape. With that, I would also like to
Just for a minute, I want to, I'm sorry, I missed one point. You see, I wish to inform every Indian across the world that we have recently started, this is quite a bit of time now, an India Science digital channel, and this is like an app. And I would like every scientist all across the world in your telephone, please download our app India Science. It runs 24 hours and you can see what's happening in science. And we would like your active, proactive, dynamic, vibrant, and very worthy suggestions for strengthening and improving the India Science digital channel that runs 24 hours. You can load that in your telephones and give us your feedback. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I would just quickly like to inform to our live audience there was a technical bug because of which at some point we couldn't see the video, but to hear what you were speaking. And just to compensate, we have a complete recording and we will put it, and that will be used for our consultation also. With that remark, I request all of us on the call to keep their cameras open and request Dr. Radhika to begin giving the vote of thanks. Meanwhile, we will take the photo so that we can save some time. So please keep your cameras open and look towards the camera picture so that Radhika can deliver the vote of thanks, and we will click group photographs. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for joining.
Thanks, Chagun. With this, we come to the end of the delightful event with our diaspora community spread Foremost, I would like to convey my heartiest thanks to respected Honorable Minister Dr. Harshvardhan, Principal Scientific Advisor to Government of India Professor Vijay Raghavan, our DST Secretary Professor Ashutosh Sharma, Dr. Vijay Chauthewale, and Ambassador Renu Paul. More importantly, our on-call diaspora representatives, our S&T councillors, colleagues, and our audience watching us live. I, on behalf of STIP2020 Secretariat and entire STI community, extend my sincere gratitude to our guiding force, Dr. Harshvardhan, for chairing the event and actively engaging with the Indian diaspora. We thank you, sir, for guiding us and sharing your thoughts and vision in shaping India's upcoming science, technology, and innovation policy, popularly known as STIP 2020. We are also grateful to our panelist, Professor Vijay Raghavan, for gracing this, engaging with diaspora and providing thoughtful insights to the subject. A special thanks to Dr. Vijay for assisting us in organizing this event and reaching out to the diaspora across the globe. We are grateful to Professor Ashutosh Sharma for his constant support and encouragement in taking forward the event and making the STIP 2020 process at a large. My sincere thanks to our leader, Dr. Akhilesh Gupta, the head of STIP Secretariat, for all his support to make this event possible and leading this initiative. With this, I'll just few more thanks for the event preparators. A special thanks to the officials of DST, Minister's Office, Office of PSA, and various other ministry departments and agencies for extending their valuable support to an event of such prominence and taking it to the public diaspora community across the globe. An exuberant acknowledgement to the event organizing team, STIP 2020 Secretariat, Science Policy Forum for their tireless efforts and dedication in planning and organizing the event. And last but not least, I thank our live audience from India and abroad for their active participation and engagement in making this event a success. Keep posting your comments and thoughts with hashtag #ChatWithDrHarshvardhan and hashtag STIP2020. We look forward to your valuable comments and inputs. I would like to thank you all again for making this event a success. With this, I conclude the session. Together, let us take forward the spirit of shaping Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. Take care and a very good evening to our Indian participants and very good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to our diaspora participants joining us from different parts of the world. Jai Hind.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.